In this video, I'm going to walk through several different materials that I've tested over the past few months for vibration dampening. And I did a previous video with a few materials, and this is just a follow-up, and I wanted to talk through some of the things I've learned. In front of me, I have Moongel, sorbethane, 50 durometer, foam earplugs, which I know we've all tested with. These are actually the 32 dB rated earplugs. And these 29 dB rated ones are much harder to compress than the standard foam ones that we're used to. Then we have double-sided sticky tape, and then the infamous kitchen sponge. And lastly, I left these guys for last because this is what I've been flying with a lot lately. It's a Kyosho Zeal, sticky on both sides, and it's been one of my favorites as of late. And I wanted to get some data together just to see how the results look related to just the vibration dampening that each one of these materials does. And so in my previous video, I received a lot of feedback related to how I was mounting the iPhone, which is taking the vibration measurement. So I used a zip tie. In this case, I'm using a rubber band. As you know, we all probably, if you're mounting directly to the frame, like with the TBS Discovery, you're likely using a rubber band. Now I realize there is transfer of vibration from the frame to the phone, and in all cases we'll be using the rubber band to keep the iPhone in place, just so that we're consistent with all our tests. And you know, in some cases like the Zeal and even the Moongel, you know, has a good amount of stickiness to it. And I'll begin the test with just a point of reference with the iPhone mounted directly to the frame, so we can use that to see what the vibrations look like and follow up with each subsequent material. So for each material, when I have it mounted, I'll kind of show a clip of that. I'll hover for 30 seconds. We'll take our measurements and then chart them in a Google spreadsheet and do a comparison at the end. So I'll start with the no vibration material test and hover for 30 seconds. I'll just show you, kind of what the hover test looks like, and then from there on out, I'm not going to actually show you 30-second clips of the same thing with different materials. Okay, so we'll begin. Okay, so next up, I'm going to be testing with the Moongel. Now, one thing I wanted to show you guys and just point out, each of these materials has a different profile, different amount of surface area that's actually going to be mounted to the iPhone. So I realize that. I mean, that's really a hard thing for us to, make similar across all tests. So I'm trying to preserve, the actual shape of each material as we test. Okay, we have our Moongel mounted. You can see it in the front and the back. Okay, next up we're going to mount and test the sorbethane, 50 durometer. For the 32 dB foam earplugs, I mounted one on each corner of the phone laying flat. So we're going to test that now. And now we have the 29 dB foam earplugs that we'll test. Okay, next up we have the kitchen sponge, which is pretty spongy. So, judging from just what you see here, you'd expect it to be pretty good. So we'll get it mounted and test. And our sponge is mounted and ready to test. You notice that it's compressed a fair amount, and there are definite disadvantages to having a material that's compressed because it loses some of its dampening characteristics. But for the sake of this test, like I said, everything is consistent in terms of tension, fairly consistent. So we'll go with it and look at the results. Okay, next up we have the double-sided Scotch sticky tape. Our sticky tape is mounted and ready to go. Okay, last up in our test is the Kyosho Zeal. It's double-sided sticky as well. Okay, now I'm going to do one final test. You'll notice the rubber band is gone, and you can see just how incredibly sticky this Zeal is. So I'm going to do one flight hover test with no rubber band, so we can separate the Zeal test with a rubber band and without it, and put it in its own chart just to see the impact of the rubber band.
So let's take a quick look at the data from our vibration test. Now, I will actually post this link in the description so you can view it. And just a heads up that this is a pretty heavy spreadsheet, so just be aware that some of these charts take a few seconds to load. For starters, we have 3 charts, the X, Y, and Z axis vibration charts. And then I've gone down and actually broken the Zeal X, Y, and Z axis chart with and without the rubber band. I just wanted to demonstrate the effect of the rubber band on our tests. And as you get further down, we have different tables with the raw data. So the way I've charted these is I've actually started from the left to right with the most noisy vibrations being kind of in the background, the no material, sticky tape. And if you mouse over these, you can actually see the outline of the plot highlighted. So what was most interesting to me is that if you look at the earplug, the standard 32 dB construction earplugs, and the Moongel, those are really the guys that did the best job of vibration dampening. And the surprise was actually the Zeal, which I've been a big fan of lately, and I had switched to using mainly because of its stickiness. It's actually doesn't do near as good of a job as the foam earplugs and the Moongel. The Moongel still kind of being the best. Let's take a look at the y-axis to see how that compares to the X. Okay, so once again, we go over here and you can see the earplugs and the Moongel is really, the footprint is very minimal. So definitely good results with the Moongel. Now we'll take a look at the Z-axis. We can just tell by the overall footprint that vibrations kind of across the board on the Z-axis are fairly minimal. But you can still notice that the Moongel and earplugs are kind of the clear winners here. Okay, so let's look at the comparison of the Zeal axis, X-axis with and without the rubber band. If you saw my initial video, I actually attached the iPhone using a zip tie, and I received a lot of feedback saying, hey, that kind of ruined the test results. So I tried to do something a little different in this test by using a rubber band. And so you'll notice that the Zeal with the rubber band versus the Zeal without the rubber band, there's a little bit of overhead with using the rubber band. And so let's take a look at the y-axis. And you'll notice on the y-axis the Zeal with the rubber band is a little bit noisier than without. The conclusion is yes, the rubber band does add a little bit of vibration overhead with respect to each material, but at the same time all materials were attached with a rubber band, and the increased vibes are fairly minimal. So I still believe that in the cases of both Moongel and the foam earplugs, those are definitely related to my tests, the best materials to be using. If you have properly sized propellers, well-balanced propellers, well-balanced motors, good vibration dampening material such as Moongel, from my field testing and analysis, that's definitely a good setup to go with if you're looking for just very stable and vibration-free aerial video. And as I discover new materials, I'll definitely be doing some follow-up tests. I think just seeing the data is incredibly helpful and has definitely opened my eyes to just the impact of the earplugs and the Moongel. So hope this video was useful, and if you have any questions, please post them below, and thanks for watching.